Like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessings. I'll give y'all some time to tune in. Apologies for the pushback. Been a busy afternoon, but nonetheless, when you get one of those, I'm still gonna come through with some. Trying to still get myself situated as we speak. Been a busy afternoon, but nonetheless, I had to come speak to the people real quick. I don't know how long we'll be on this live today. I just want to discuss a few things, especially the things that need to be discussed. So, to give y'all some time to tap in. First things first, hopefully everybody having a blessed and productive Wednesday. Hopefully everybody's smoothly getting through work day. If you just now getting ready to go to work, hopefully you have a smooth work night. About to enjoy these next 2 nights off. So for those in the city, it is kind of cloudy. Might still get a slight chance of rain, but at least it's not as humid as it's been. So take advantage of these next few days because all next week, Tuesday to Friday, you're going to be reaching the 90s again. So for those who might have to deal with some things next week, hopefully y'all keep yourselves hydrated, keep yourselves safe out there. Hopefully it won't be as humid, but anytime we reach 90, we get some humidity. So P. Moses, what's going on, my guy? Jared, what's going on, my guy? So hopefully everybody's smoothly getting through the day. Like I said, the city is not as humid, so that's a good thing. At least you're not pouring down in sweat. So my bad if it sounds a little muffled. Trying to fix a few things. Just Jay, baby. Good live stream the other day, definitely. Shout outs. I see you was doing your thing, sis. Keep rocking out. Keep doing your thing. Breeze, what's going on, my guy? Appreciate everybody that tuned in for the conversation on Friday. Definitely was a great one. Shout outs to Riders for Life for popping in on the conversation. Definitely was a conversation that was needed. So, no doubt, bro. Nah, I ain't driving. I got my little AC on right now. So if you hear that, my bad, son. But yeah, definitely was a great talk. Definitely was something that we needed to do. And like I said, anytime that panel is dropped on the StreamYard, y'all already know, I always enjoy people coming in for the conversations and putting in their 2 cents. For those that missed it, you could definitely catch the replay. I want to speak about something I've seen the other day, and I meant to talk about it Saturday. Well, I meant to talk about it this weekend, but been a busy weekend as well too. Short-staffed at work, so your boy been working crazy days and shit. But yeah, it sound like I'm in the truck. Nah, boy, not no truck. If I was, I'd have caught road rage by now. You know that. James, what's going on, my guy? I see that coffee up in here. You already know what time it is. Nah, but I wanted to touch up on something that I seen the other day, and it kind of like threw me off. So apparently, two dudes were arrested for the unaliving of a 16-year-old. I forget which state this was in. I think this was in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. The problem with this situation was the girl was pregnant, and come to find out, one of the suspects was the child's father. Oh, but here's the kicker. Here's the kicker, y'all. The kicker was she's only 16, right? Well, she was only 16. This dude is 36 years old. How does a dude 20 years your age manage to do that? Another kicker. She was supposed to be in a group home, or she was in a group home. How the hell does the group home allow that shit to happen? That's a question I want to ask. I mean, I thought a group home was supposed to be what it was. They ain't supposed to be getting out unless they got passes or unless they got certain. Because I dealt with somebody one time, and not on that level, but I knew somebody who was in the group home, but yet and still they couldn't do as much as they wanted to because you had to either have a pass, you had to have some form of whatever stating this is where you was gonna be at, so on and so forth. The thing is, again, how does a man that's 20 years older than you decide to get you pregnant, but then the same token decide to take your life? Make that make sense. Hence why I was saying what I was saying the last time to a degree. It's time for some of y'all women and some of y'all men to really start paying attention, close attention to your children. Now, even if you have to put your kid in a home because of whatever reason, it's almost the same reason where you would put your kids in a boot camp or something like that. If they're not following rules and regulations, things that should be followed, then you as a parent, you do have a right to discipline your child if the discipline you're doing is not working. But they still are supposed to be safe regardless to what. And that's the crazy part about it. How does that manage to happen? Now, see, you going down for 2 murders, basically. Because any unaliving of a child that hasn't been born yet, that's murder 1 off the rip. Don't matter where you at. That's a murder 1, and that's a capital murder to some degree. So that's 1 murder. Then you have this one, and again, this girl, we don't know what she could have been or what she could have became. Some people that are in group homes don't always turn out messed up. Like I said, I know 1 or 2 people who've been through that situation, and they turned out good, And that's crazy, again, because, yeah, he should go under the jail. My bad if y'all hear this water. I'm about to start brewing up this coffee soon, so you already know what time it is. But, it's crazy. Because, again, it just goes to show you that in a world like this, there's some things that are just not safe. Some things are just definitely not, things to look over. Because, again, it's about the safety of your young ones. Condolences go out to the family because who knows what the situation is with the family, the background, all of that. I'm not going to sit here and say that these parents were probably bad or... No, I'm not going to say that. Because sometimes it do be the children doing the utmost where some parents might have to make an ultimate decision they don't want to make. But again, it's just sad because that's something you're not expecting to hear. But again, 36, bro, you almost 40. You couldn't find somebody you couldn't find somebody at least within the late 20s, early 30s. Like, come on now. This is why I said we do have situations we have to be aware of because, sad to say, we do have people out here who are sick like that. They don't care about the age. They don't care about nothing else. They just care about themselves at that time in that present juncture. And it's not fair because, again, another young one is not going to be, it's not going to be around to see their family. Probably not going to be around for nothing. Not probably. They're not going to be around for nothing. And you probably stopped all of that. It's bad enough you put a seed in her or try to put a seed in her. That's sad. It's like, how is this, again, supposed to be a group home when they're not safe? I always believe that, even if the children are getting sent away for whatever reasons, they still supposed to have some form of safety around. Now, I know with some of these homes, from what I've seen and what I've heard, they get some form of leniency, but in the same token, it's like you can't even trust that because who's to say that person decides they want to go out and then they don't come back? That's something we got to look at, and that's something that can't be overlooked neither. Like I said, there's certain things and certain systems that can be changed, but again, it's up to the people. It really is, because again, that's unjust to sit here and try to quote unquote put a life in somebody, but then you take that life. And that's why I said we need to figure out ways to keep them sort of situations from happening again because it's sad. Um, again, who knows what's going to be the outcome of everything, but I honestly feel at least that one in particular, the child's father, should be the one that's thrown under the jail. You know, and it's sad. That was what you came up with. That was your decision to say, I'm just going to do this to her. Again, you took away a life, something that's hard to bring back. It's easy to take one, but it's hard to give one back. And technically, you destroyed 2 lives, you know? Because who's to say, let's say if the girl decides she wants to keep it. Who's to say that she wouldn't have turned out to be a good mother? Maybe this would have been her wake-up call for whatever. Whatever she was in the group home for, it probably was something that had to deal with home, But who's to say that wouldn't have been a wake-up call for her? But then again, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Because you, as a grown man, should know better. You're almost 40 years old and you're deciding to put a child into a teenager. I didn't get deep into the story because it disturbed my stomach, It definitely disturbed my stomach because, again, it shouldn't have been like that. Oh, Henny, what's going on, my guy? For those that just tuned in, y'all make sure y'all hit that like button. But again, it's sad because another teenager is taken out of this world well before their time because of insecurities or just because you didn't want to be responsible. But if you didn't want to be responsible, you shouldn't have thought about putting that life into it. Straight up. You shouldn't have thought about that in the first place. Again, that's a whole child. That child was... You old enough to be that child's father, technically. You got about 20 years. You old enough to be her father. Why would you be sitting here going towards that links thing? And the sad part about it is that everywhere around the world, we do have people like that. They might be hiding in the shadows. You might not peep them at first. But in the same token, Mo, what's going on, baby? But in that same token, it's sad. And it's very just, it's dishonorable because, again, you should have enough sense to know that ain't it. And honestly, I could tell he ain't gonna have too much of a good thing when it comes down to him being locked up. He not. Most people like that end up in that situation, they always end up getting their karma. He's gonna get the extreme karma because you took 2 lives. You took 2 lives, number one, and then on top of that, in all actuality, you're a predator. No matter how you look at it, you will be deemed as a predator because there's no way you could tell me you 20 years older than somebody and you thought that was the right thing to do by trying to put a baby in, put a baby in a baby, basically, because she still was young. That's what I'm saying. Parents, start making sure that even if you have to put your kids up for whatever reason, if you got to send them to boot camp, if you got to send them to all boys or all girls group home, something like that, make sure that they're safe. Because who knows what the hell is going on in these places right here. Appreciate you for that series, baby. And I think that's unfair. Again, another young life taken well before their time just because of not so much as insecurity. Frugal, baby. I see you changed your name. What's going on, baby? And again, that's sad. It's sad when these children are not gaining or they not getting the life that they really deserve. No child should be going up out of this earth before a certain age. Now, it's a difference if it's a health situation. You know, like if it's cancer, house in Virginia, something along those lines, right? Something where you know 9 out of 10, some of these people ain't really gonna make it past a certain age. You know, if it's those type of medical situations, you know, you can't control that. But the fact that again, this person still had time to grow, develop, and do anything with their lives and didn't get a chance to do it, it says a lot. Serious, baby. You know, and again, he's gonna get his karma. The reason why I say that is because there's a lot of dudes out there who are getting in trouble for that, and they receiving their karma. You know, and it's sad because what kind of mental state you got to be in to want to put a child in somebody who's still a child themselves? They not old enough to buy cigarettes. They're not old enough to purchase liquor, even get in the club. And it's sad because we do have certain ones like that in this communities, and not just men. We got women too who are doing that same exact thing. It's like you're targeting the young ones for what? What are you trying to groom them or something? Come on, it don't make no sense. It really doesn't make no sense at all. You know, and this is why I say you gotta watch everything and take every precaution. You know, like I said, I understand there are some kids who, yeah, they gotta get sent away because apparently the discipline that you're trying to give them and instill in them is not working. Trust me, I know, because I had younger cousins who was in that situation. Shoot, I got older cousins who was in that situation at one point. You wasn't trying to listen to reason. You wasn't trying to basically bow down to the rules and regulations of the house. Okay, well, you're not going to be here thinking you're going to do whatever. I'm going to send you somewhere where you're going to learn respect. You're going to learn manners. You definitely going to learn. And sure enough, it straightened them out. Didi, baby. It straightened them out. You know, and that's the thing, though. Maybe this was the situation. Maybe she got sent away to get straightened up. You know, I don't know the whole situation again because, you know, you have some parents who will just, you know, just give their kids away and don't even have no real reason on giving them away. But it's sad because, again, another young life lost. 2 lives lost, technically. You know, because like I said, who's to say if she didn't keep that baby? If she would have kept that baby, you know, maybe that would have turned her into a different light of everything. You know, but who knows? And that's the 2 things that I noticed, because I got people who was locked up that said the same thing. The 2 worst things that you could be, especially if you get locked up, is a predator and if you took the life of a child. So, you know, you putting yourself in that position, which means, trust me, if you ain't built for it, you're going to be calling for that PC yard or anything, because if you put in general population, trust me, they're going to be on your ass. Excuse me for saying it that way, but they are. They're going to be on you. Why? Because, again, that could have been anybody's child. That could have been anybody's niece, nephew, family. You're not thinking about things like that. And some of these people don't realize the consequences until they get behind that wall. But I'm going to say this for the fellas out there, you know, even for some of the ladies. If y'all notice, or if you noticing certain things with certain people in your communities and it don't seem right, do your investigations and make sure that it's not what you think it is. And the minute you do find out that's really what it is, shoot. Stand on it. You know, keep your eyes open at all times. Because who's to say when that person strikes? And when they strike, you know, it ain't going to be much you could really do. Well, you can do something, but, you know, the fact that the act has already been done, you know, now it's like damage control. You know, RIP again to that young woman because she didn't deserve to go out like that. And it's sad that it took 2 men to do it. You know, and that's crazy. You know, and that thing with me is like, you took somebody's life and you the one that got her pregnant. That means you didn't want to be responsible, or you knew at some point something was going to happen and it was going to backfire on you. So the best way to get rid of whatever, or the best way to quote unquote do the damage control, was let me just unalive them and hope that I don't get wrapped up. But guess what? You wrapped up now. You can't go nowhere. You stuck. And again, if you stuck in general population, forget about it. You're going to receive all forms of karma all around the board. I don't feel bad for you. Miss Chicago, baby. Miss E, what's going on, sis? Let me see you in a minute. Hope all is well with you. Who else popped up in here? My bad, y'all. When I start going, I don't. I kind of lose track, but it's just crazy. It's crazy that again, another young life tragically taken because of somebody who just wanted to be irresponsible, or is taken because they want to clean up something that they know they was wrong in doing. And I don't care how you look at it, you was wrong in doing that. To take advantage of a girl that's 16 and you're 20 years older than her, what does that say about you? It's sad that you really do have men out there like that, but you also got women out there like that who are preying on the young. And this was something I was having a conversation about with somebody the other day. It's sad that this is almost becoming like a norm to some people. I'm gonna deal with somebody younger. Even if you was in your late 30s, you decide to deal with somebody a little younger than you, they should be old enough, again, to purchase alcohol, cigarettes, anything. Especially if that's what you're dealing with. They should be old enough to say, let me go with you to this club, let me go with you to this spot, and not get looked at weird. But again, it goes on angles. Again, I feel that group home should be responsible because how did you allow this to happen? Did you even know this girl was pregnant? And if you knew she was pregnant, why you didn't start asking or investigating? These are things that we got to look at. When you're not investigating and doing your due diligence, you just as guilty. People don't want to hear that, but it's truth. My bad, y'all. Y'all already know. I thought I had my coffee pot filled all the way up. I didn't. But yeah, it's crazy. That young girl didn't get a chance to really fully live life. It was taken away because of just overall evilness right there. And how could you even feel good as a man, or how could you even look yourself in the mirror when you do look yourself in the mirror, realize you just did something that was ungodly, and you think what? You think at some point people are going to forgive you? No. I mean, even if you do get forgiven, it's the fact that you got to worry about that higher power when it's all said and done. Those two lives is on your hands, man. I'm looking at it from that standpoint. Those two lives is on you, and it's not fair because again, you never know what could have been of either one of them. Or you might have did that because she probably said she was going to get rid of the baby. And some people will jump the gun or get crazy when it comes to something they don't want to hear. But this is where, again, emotional intelligence and awareness is supposed to be the key factor. It's unfair. And that's why I said, there are some scenarios where parents are going to have to really start, making sure that these places you're sending your children to are safe all around the board. Like prime example, some of them do enforce curfews and stuff, but then you got some who they don't care. As long as you in that facility before a certain time frame, or as long as you not out and about and they ain't gotta look for you, they'll allow you to have some freedom. And in some situations, I've seen this for myself. I've seen situations where some of these people allow the people from outside to come into their group homes. And I didn't think that was possible. What you mean no coffee? We need that motor oil, baby. But it's sad though. This is why I said in some scenarios you gotta be careful and where you sending your kids off to, where you shipping them off to, and if you gonna ship them off for a small time frame, again, make sure their safety is still intact. very unfair. Again, it's sickening overall because, again, things like that shouldn't take place, shouldn't transpire. And to think, again, you're a grown man, you should have enough of a mind sense, and you should have enough common sense to know what you did wasn't right on all cylinders. You wasn't right by having relations with this girl knowing she was underage. And now again, what if somebody would have found that out before time or before all of this took place? You still would have got in trouble. Or let's say to find out she would have decided to have this baby and there was nothing you could do about it, you still was going to get in trouble. Because again, why would that sink in your mind to say, I'm going to do this? Be safe on that road, baby. Anybody that's driving or anybody that could be doing whatever at this point, especially on the road, y'all make sure y'all, keep your eyes on the road at all times. Be safe out there. Because, these people don't know how to damn drive anyway. And it's sad. Because, again, where is your logic? Where is your common sense? Where is your morals and principalities and everything? How did you think that was going to turn out? Let's say if you didn't unalive her. How do you think that situation would have turned out? You the worst type of predator because you preyed on somebody that's in a group home. I don't know her full details. I don't know if she was, suffering from any form of mental illness or anything along those lines. So I'm not going to put that out there. But I am going to say, regardless to what, nigga, you worst. And you are the type of people we got to watch out for in our communities. Because, again, you're sitting here and thinking that was the best line to do. I'm going to get somebody that I could manipulate. I'm going to get somebody that's easy. I'm going to get somebody that, probably has low self-esteem for themselves or probably don't care. And it's crazy, man. It's crazy that this is how, it happens. That's why I said we have to be more vigilant in our communities. And when we see we got people like that who are roaming around, we got to get them the fuck up out of here. Sorry to say it that way, but it's true. We got to get them the hell up out of here. Because they are another prime example and a problem of what's going on in our communities. We got men and women like that who think, I'm going to go after these young ones. I'm going to be able to control and manipulate the situation to my advantage. Trust and believe that we do have honest men and women out here who ain't playing that game. You get anywhere near somebody that young, we trying to take your lights out. Excuse me for saying it that way. We from that era. We from that era where if we thought something like that was happening, you was going to be put on a display. How they say it? Public shaming. That was just like the video I told y'all about a while back when they beat up this dude who was on some next level. They beat him up and tied him around a damn street light. They really duct taped him all around that street pole and was continuously beating on him. That's the type of things that need to happen when you got men and women out here doing shit like that to these young ones. You're messing up their minds, number one. You're leaving some form of a mental scar on them. And then again, you're also just enticing the wrong type of bull. Not fair. Because again, shouldn't nobody have to worry about that. No child should have to worry about being preyed upon. Just like no parent should have to worry about their children being preyed upon. Like I said, when you start seeing certain things and it don't look right or it just don't seem right, follow your gut instinct. 9 out of 10, you might be right. And you got to think about it. Now that's a whole nother funeral that has to be set up. And shouldn't nobody have to bury their children before time. The goal for a lot of them, is to try to watch them grow. Hold on 1 second. Appreciate you, serious baby. Hold on, let me pin this up. Because I know how they try to do things. Hold on. I know how they trying to do things, especially on this vertical, so. But it's sad. Again, another young life. Who knows what kind of talents this woman had? Who knows what probably would have been in store for her? And it didn't get a chance to happen. Why? Because manipulated in the wrong situation. And I would say that for some of y'all parents, you definitely need to, again, try to instill certain values and, put your kids on game, man. When your kids are in a situation and it feels like they're being targeted, you gotta prepare them for that. Let them know that anytime there's somebody well older than you that's coming at you or pressuring you to do anything that you're not comfortable doing, go tell somebody, go say something. And again, people like that, like I said, he's not getting out. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no way that man is getting out unless it's an unfair justice system. Even if it was a slap on the wrist, nah, you just, any unaliving of a child that's unborn, that's an automatic 25. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So you could be possibly facing 2 life sentences depending. And that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful. Because you have people like that who, again, doing the utmost, and then when it finally catches up to them, they start to panic. They want to do things that they know is not going to be right, or they want to do things that they know for a fact is still going to blow back on them. Unfair. And it's unreal to think that we still got people out here like that. And some of these people would try to say, oh, that's normal, or this was something that I was accustomed to, and so on and so forth. But no. Not by the hairs of my chinny chin chin should that be acceptable on any level. Now, I'll be honest with you, there are some children out there are some teens out there who are looking like stone cold adults. But again, it's wise for some of y'all to pay attention to what's going on. That was just like with me, prime example. I had people, when my brother was growing into an adult, they thought he was already an adult because how big he was and how tall he was. But no, he was still a child. And that's what I'm saying. It's like the same way as some young ones out here, some young hot ones out here that want to be grown so badly. They doing any and everything to look the part. But I would tell some of y'all parents, again, y'all better start paying attention to what your children are doing. And I mean everything. It is important. And I mean everything, even down to what they wear outside. Because again, you have to make sure your child is appropriate for outside. It's unfair when, again, you might have some out there who look like stone cold adults, but they still young. And then you got people like him who preys on young ones like that. Not fair. It definitely ain't fair at all. And it shouldn't be accepted. It shouldn't be overlooked. And it definitely needs to be addressed more. Appreciate you for dropping those links, serious baby. Working hard in this damn coffee pot, baby. But yeah, and I'm going to say that to even some of the new parents out there. Please make sure that your children are dressed appropriate. Please make sure, I don't care if you are with them, make sure that they're wearing age-appropriate things, because again, it's unfair. Just like one night, prime example, I'm at work, and I think y'all heard me say something about that. How some people really just don't be caring no more. And again, it starts from the parents. It starts from what you're being taught. Don't tell me no coffee. Coffee, baby. Motor oil, baby. Yeah. Oh, and apologies for the Clapper fam. Yeah, I had a I had a very long weekend. Had some family pull up. Just got rid of them not too long ago. So I will try to be on there this Friday definitely. So if you ain't following me on Clapper, make sure you download that app, create an account, and come follow your boy. You already know what it is. Naomi, baby. You know, but again, we have to get to that point. You know, because it's unfair. How is it that some of y'all are allowing your children to go out in the same things you're wearing? Like prime example, some of you women out here wearing booty shorts or wearing super short skirts, things along those lines. But then you got your kids outside wearing almost the same thing. Like again, you don't know what kind of situations are lurking out there. You don't know what kind of creeps are praying out there. James number 8, what's going on, my guy? I don't see no pork chop. I just heard here pork chop sandwich. There you go. I see the sandwich now. I see the sandwich. But you know, you gotta think about that. You wearing something, you and your daughter wearing almost the same type of outfit. What you think you gonna get? You know, it's something that you should think about. You know, some of y'all think it's cool for your children to wear these super tight or super short things, but it's not. Your young queens could still be victims. Just like this one was a victim. A victim of somebody way older than them, manipulating and just basically getting what they want from them. You know, you gotta think about it. Your kids' brains are still developing until a certain age. So now here it is, you know, you're putting your child in danger. Yeah, you technically putting yourselves in danger to some degree, because again, you don't know who could be lurking and who could be on that predator time, you know. But I would also say for some of the fellas out there, y'all have to be careful and y'all have to make sure y'all are doing the right things. You know, don't put yourself in certain situations because those situations ain't yours to be delving into. But everything else, delve into it. You know, if you see that a dude is accosting a woman and they don't have no ties with that woman at all, nah, you stop that. Regardless to what. You know, you have to get involved. Because again, it's sad. It shows enough as it is. You know, it shows that you actually care. It shows that you're not willing to allow these type of things to happen, especially towards a young one. You know, and this is not anything personal, but I honestly feel again, homie gonna get what's coming to him. Boosie, what's going on, my guy? He gonna get what's coming to him. You best believe that. Ain't no going around that. He's gonna get all the wrong karma. No, he gonna get all the just karma. Let me get this right. My bad, y'all. Multitasking still. Like I said, it's been a long afternoon. But yeah, he gonna get what's coming to him. You know, and it's sad though. Again, we have men and women out there who think that that's the move. I'm gonna go after this young one because it's easier to get them. It's easier to manipulate and trick them into anything. And then guess what? It's sad though. Another young life lost because somebody decided they wanted to do something that wasn't necessary. And I honestly hope that every day in that system for him be a bad one. Because you gotta feel some type of way. Doing what's going on, my guy? See you up in here. Again, and I would say for some of you fellas out there, start being more involved when it comes to your children, especially your young queens. For those that need to hear it. I don't care what you're going through with the baby mother, whatever the case is, you still gotta be an active part of your child's life. Again, if it don't apply, let it fly. Oh, I'm good, bro. I'm good, bro. You already. Just a little upset about that story I read. And I didn't fully read all of it. I read enough to know that it was wrong. You know, again, child was 16 years old, pregnant with a child. And then come to find out you unalived her with the help of somebody. And that person is just as guilty because guess what? You both are going to get charged with the same type of crimes. You know, and it's sad. It's sad that we living in a world where people don't have the mindset to say, at least those people don't have the mindset to say, let me find somebody that's within my group. Let me find somebody that I know for a fact, you know, can meet me on my level. But it's also sad too because, again, you know, you have some people who, if they was raised and born around that shit, they're gonna be right into their adulthood thinking that that's normal. That's not normal for anybody well over their 30s to be dealing with somebody who's just in their teens. Not cool at all. And again, I would advise anybody in any community that when you see some of these men and women moving in a certain way, or you see that they doing certain things, or even lingering around people that's well younger than them, like prime example, you're never gonna catch me, and I'm, you know, I'm old enough. You ain't gonna catch me hanging around no teenagers. You're not gonna catch me hanging around somebody who's in their young 20s. It's nothing personal, but no, it's just something I'm not doing. I don't care if I know you. Keith, what's going on, my guy? You're never gonna catch me hanging around teenagers. You're never gonna catch me smoking, drinking, doing anything around them because again, the goal is not push them in that direction and not to give them the wrong type of ideas. But you have some of these adults, men and women, who think that's cool. You want to be around the young ones. You want to try to have relations with these young ones. Shoot. It's like you want these young ones to be somebody for you, but in the long run, you got to be mentally sick or unstable to think that. Not cool at all, man. Now with that, well, them two right there, like I said, they both gonna face capital one because you unalived a child who was pregnant with a child. So yeah, those gonna be two murder raps on you. It's just the only difference is the other one is gonna be an accessory because he was dead. Regardless if he really had something to do with it or not, you are a part of the crime. So guess what? You gotta do the time just as well. Unfair. And again, it's unrealistic. And I hope this live is getting shared out because again, this is the type of talks we need to have even when it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me to have these conversations because again, I hate to hear any type of situation like that. These young ones didn't fully get a chance to develop, grow, and become something great in life because it was cut short. It's unfair. It's unfair all around the board. You know, and that's why I say start being more visual, start being more assertive, and definitely make sure that if you do got people who are creeping around like that, you put them on blast, especially if they attempt something that you know for a fact is wrong. Put them on blast. How they say it, bring back that public shaming shit. See, that's what we're missing in this generation. There is no public shaming. Like if you did something that you know was wrong, you should get shamed for that publicly because again, everybody needs to know what it is with you. Period. You know, and this is what I'm saying. It's unfair. Unfair that another life cut short and tragic because of insecurities and possibly mental instability. It's crazy. You know, this is why you have to be careful and you have to read people well. You know, the same way you could read if somebody's a drug addict, you should be able to read if somebody is on that type of time or not. You know, I can remember, like I told y'all a whole bunch of lives ago, you know, matter of fact, this was over 10, 12 years ago. You know, we did something for my block. We did something for the kids. We took them out to a baseball game and another event that was going on in the community. And we almost had to beat up a whole Mexican dude because he out here trying to entice one of the young ones. You know, and had we not paid attention, if nobody would have been on point, who's to say what would have happened? That's why I say, even in public events and things like that, pay attention to people. Because you never know who could be a predator or who could be a creeper or who could even be thinking about doing something. You know, and that's why I said, you know, it's just so important right now for some people to wisen up and wake up. We still live in a dangerous world. My bad, y'all. You know I had to puff this real quick. But it's sad that we really are in dire times right now, and it's getting worse. You know, things that should be frowned upon, things that should be looked down on, is almost getting accepted, or it's almost, you know, being condoned. That's not cool. It is not cool at all for any grown man or grown woman to prey on anybody way younger than them. Sorry. I'm old-fashioned when it comes to certain things. Yeah, it is sad serious because, again, you gotta think about it. These young ones are still developing in the mind. They still developing overall. So how do you feel comfortable, or how do you even look yourself in the mirror every day knowing that you thinking like that and think that it's cool and think that it's supposed to be accepted? It's not accepted. It's not accepted at all. And the main ones that are not accepting it, trust me, they're going to be vocal about it. They're going to speak their mind up on it. And that's what we need more of. You know, again, if you've been on any type of creep time, even if you ain't on the registry, it should be public knowledge on what the hell you do. You know? I would tell it to anybody. You out here trying to deal with and trying to have relations with somebody that's not fully developed, or, you know, they not of age, yeah, you should be put on a public display. Everybody should be wary of you and should watch out for you, period. Now again, you never know what this young girl could have been or what she could have grown up to be. All you're going to get is what ifs, you know? This is why I speak the way I speak sometimes. I'm speaking from not so much as experience, I'm speaking from the soul, because you need to hear this. This is that ether that needs to make your soul burn slow, for real. Because again, it's time for some of y'all to wisen up and wake up and realize that the things that you're doing, you're only contributing to the madness. You're only contributing to the nonsense. You're only contributing to the danger, you know? Unfair again. And I'm sorry, but that brother right there, both of them are going to suffer. Because you got to think about it. This is the rest of your life. You're going to be locked behind a steel cage. You probably only get 1 hour, if that, of recreation. Other 23, you're going to be in your cell. Who knows who you're going to be in the cell with if you don't have protective custody. You might be in there with somebody who's already doing life and don't care. The minute they find out your info, or the minute you try to lie about what you in here for, and they find out, especially it's already worldwide news, forget about it. You going down. You know, and it's not going to be no, oh, we feel sorry. Nah, because they didn't feel sorry. They didn't feel sorry on doing what they did, and they didn't feel sorry on manipulating the situation. Because again, you have a mind. You're supposed to use it. The mind is supposed to be the sharpest and the strongest part of your anatomy. And if you mean to tell me you couldn't think twice about what you was doing, no, you didn't think twice because you didn't care. Point blank, you didn't care. No one was advocating for her even during the time she was screaming out for help. Yeah, and that's the thing, because again, she was in this group home. Who knows again what she got sent to the group home for? But it's sad because even in that scenario, she's supposed to still have protection all around the board. She shouldn't have been able to go out, do whatever she did, and then get pregnant by this dude. And who's to say this dude didn't manipulate the whole situation at hand? Sad. You know, the system failed her. I can't say her parents fully failed her because the parents probably sent her away for good reasons. You know what? You're not trying to listen. You're not trying to abide by certain things. All right, we're going to send you somewhere where you're going to get it right. But then in some of these situations, these kids are getting sent to group homes because the parents are still out there not giving a damn. Some of these parents are out here in the streets. If they ain't gang banging, if they ain't on heavy drugs, they trying to live a second childhood, not trying to be responsible. It's crazy. I don't feel bad for anything that happens to people like that. And again, it's not just men out there who are being predators. You have women out there as well who are being predators. You in your 30s, your 40s, and you trying to deal with somebody in their young teens or in their young 20s. What you think you getting out of that? Something you gotta think about. And again, when some of these people are raised, I'm sorry to say, when some of these people are raised in that situation and raised around it like it's normal, that's what they think it is. It's normal, but it's not normal. It ain't normal for no grown man or woman to be trying to go after a child. You know, that was just like the situation a while back with the teacher getting pregnant by a student. That's why I say, you know, there's things that you got to look out for all around the board, even when it comes down to their schooling. You know, it's important. Because again, like, you don't know what could be going on. You don't know who could be creeping, who could be trying to manipulate something. And then now again, when there's a child that's about to be involved, then what? You know, who's to say, prime example? Your young son decide to have a relation with a teacher. That teacher get pregnant. The teacher decide to keep the baby. Or if it get found out that this is what happened, that child is going to go through the system regardless. Because again, can't give it to the father because he's still too young. He probably, you know, is going through it at home. Can't send him in. And he's definitely not going to send them to the woman out of all things because again, she did something wrong. So what you think going to happen? 9 out of 10, that unborn or that child is going to get sent through a system. Get sent to foster care. Or it could be a victim of going through group homes. Sad, man. You know, that's what I'm saying. It's just sad, again, when the system fails you. You know, especially when you're that young. Nobody should be getting failed. You know, I feel that mostly all of these ones deserve a chance to grow and, you know, deserves a chance to be something. You know, it's again sad that this is what we're looking at nowadays. And some of this shit is getting accepted like it's just something normal, and it's not. It's never been normal. Because again, I'm from that era where if things like that was happening, oh, it would have been street justice before cops or anybody would have got hold of anything. And that's just real rap. You know, and that's what I'm saying. We have to get back to that. We have to get back to, again, just caring about the young ones around us who are trying to grow and blossom. You know, like I said, if at any time your child is not doing what's supposed to be done, even if you are trying to teach them from young, if they being hard-headed, stubborn, they being on certain situations, all right, well, now you have to up the ante and let them know that you're not playing. You know? But it's sad because, again, you know, again, another young life gone way too soon. Another funeral being planned 9 out of 10 by the parents. No time. Unless it has to deal with health situations, no. Anything else would be uncivilized. Why should that happen? Why should they be failed by the system? In some situations, these kids are being failed by their own parents. So the fact that, again, this child was supposed to be in a system and they even failed her, it says enough. Says enough. Yeah, I'm sorry because, again, these type of situations and these type of topics, they do something to me because, again, you know, it's sad that this is how some of these people view the world. I'm going to manipulate any situation I can. I'm going to try to do anything that I can because I feel this is normal. It's not normal. Not normal at all. It's not normal for your kids to be thinking that they adults before time. And again, this is why I said a lot of things come into consideration when it comes to that. My bad, y'all. Shout out to the coffee plug. Shout out to that French vanilla creamer too. Definitely doing something to your boy. But yeah, you know, again, it's sad. You know, and at what point does it stop? At what point does, you know, it become a thing in the past? Sad part about it is certain situations are always going to occur because you don't know everybody's background. You don't know everybody's upbringing, and none of that. But again, it's still sad because you decided to manipulate a young person that didn't fully get a chance to do anything. And I would say that to anybody that's thinking along those lines. If you think that that's your best bet is trying to deal with somebody way younger than you, or you trying to prey on somebody way younger than you, you got another thing coming. Because at some point, the people within the community and the village, they're going to definitely start doing what's necessary. You know, we have to bring that back again, public shaming. When you've done something along those lines, there's no coming back from that. I don't care how much forgiveness there is in the world. There's just some things, once you cross the line, you can't come back from that. And you have to live with that. Period. They are normalizing and capitalizing on the egregious issue. I'm appalled by the fact that no one was paying attention to her loud cries. Yeah, because again, you know, it's sad. You all right, serious. And again, you got a lot of people out there who are crying for some form of help. And they getting ignored. They getting overlooked. And it's sad because then now when something major happens, now everybody wants to be sad. Now everybody wants to come together and kumbaya and all this other shit. Nah, it's not right. When you know somebody is going through the utmost, you're supposed to try to help them the best way possible. Even if a parent can't help them, they still need help. They still need some form of guidance. That right there was just sad because, again, nobody expects to hear that. And definitely don't expect to hear that type of news right there. 16 pregnant with a child and then getting unalived by somebody 20 years their senior. Make that make sense. When has that ever been normal? When has that ever been something to, you know, praise? And I'm speaking to those who need to hear it, because there's probably somebody in the clouds creeping that need to hear that shit. When has that ever been normal? I'll wait on that, because it ain't never been normal. That shit was always looked at as sad and sick. Because again, if you couldn't try to go for somebody that was at least your age, it says enough about you. It says enough about your upbringing. Crazy, man. And like I said, there's some situations where you're gonna have to start being more visual on things. Gotta pay attention to what's going on. And again, I would say that for some of you young mothers out there, or for some of you mothers out there that need to hear, even some of you fathers out there, you must protect your young regardless to what. They ain't grown yet. And I would advise some of you women out there who, again, are wearing outfits, matching outfits and things like that with your child, start changing up. Just because you decide you want to wear something, That don't mean your child should be wearing that. You know, when you grown, you decide however it is you gonna live your life. But when you got kids, you gotta set a better example. Riders, baby. Y'all already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. And if y'all new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, you know, this is what I'm saying. I don't know, it irks me because, again, like, prime example, I work. So at nighttime, I see a bunch of shit I shouldn't see. I see things that I know for a fact, in most cases, it would be looked at funny. Because it's like, well, damn, this is how desperate or this is how dire some of you people are doing things. Unfair. Unfair at all. There's some things that, again, should be kept private. And then there's other things that, again, shouldn't just be displayed at all, because you might not be affecting yours, but you might be affecting somebody else. Might be affecting somebody else's perspective of life. Like, prime example, there should be no reason why you wearing these super short skirts where everybody can see up your woo-ha, even the kids, and you think that is normal. It's not normal. It's not cool at all, because you are setting the wrong type of tone and precedent. Because guess what? It'll be somebody else's child. Mom, dad, why this? Why that? They start asking questions, especially when they that young. I can remember one summer I heard somebody saying that, and this was a young kid, probably like 4 or 5. Mommy, why they skirt all the way up their woo-ha? Why this? Why that? Why I could see this? And they almost got into a fight, because the mother had to tell her, like, yo, this is how you present yourself. I don't care if you don't have kids. I got kids out here. You ain't think to say, let me come out in something more presentable? This is why I be saying, when some people be wanting that attention so badly that they will do any and everything, even down to how they dress, that can affect anybody's mindset. Because now it's, oh, well, if this person was able to do it, why I can't do it? Who wants to go through all of that? That's why I said, some of y'all have to take more pride and more dignity in yourself and what you're doing and how you doing it. You want to be the freak of the century? Go ahead. But do that behind closed doors. Don't think to come out in the public and do what you're doing and thinking at some point it's not going to be looked at. You know, again, it's time to raise the awareness and start doing better. You know, again, you know, it's like some of y'all be so caught up for this attention. And some of you fellas, too, don't make it no better because you right along with it. Instead of correcting something, oh, nah, I'm going to just go along with it. It don't matter if she coming home with me. I ain't worried about it. But you should be worried about it. Because, again, she's getting all the wrong attention. I don't care if she is going home with you. She's getting all the wrong attention. And guess what's going to happen? It's going to cause a fight at some point. You know, that's why I said you got to start doing way better than what we don't. Not saying you shouldn't live your life, but in the same token, just be mindful of what you're doing. Because how you present yourself in the public is how the people are going to see you. So if you decided you want to come out here and look like a $2 hoe, that's exactly what some of these people are going to treat you like, a $2 hoe. Look at you just like that. They ain't going to take you, serious. They're not going to take you nothing at all. They just going to keep looking, and they're going to have some form of judgment, or they're going to have something to say about what you're doing. I don't believe this person came outside like that. What this person thought they was doing. All these advocacy organizations are not taking pride in the real problem. They are finding a solution, they speak on, but no actionable answers. That's a fact, serious. You ain't saying nothing wrong with that at all. And it's true. You know, it's sad. Because, again, some of y'all are putting yourselves, but you also putting your young ones in danger. There should be no reason, like I said, here it is, you got some of these moms out here, and they out here doing the same things these teenagers doing. They out here being immature. They want to be out here twerking in the streets. They want to be wearing all sorts of whatever and not caring about themselves. But then when they decide they really want to look for something seriously, Nobody's taking you seriously. How can you get mad when you presenting yourself out here the way you present yourself out here? And then again, if you got young ones with you, what are you teaching them? What are you instilling in them? That it's okay to come outside any old type of way as long as you're getting the attention? It's all right for you to dress like this. Just like the other night I was at work. And I'm mad because like I said, I would have caught a video of the same shit I'm talking about. And at some point I will start doing that. I'm going to start catching certain videos of certain things, and I'm going to show y'all exactly where I be coming from. Like, prime example. Other night while I was at work, I still got time. I was on the clock, but, job wasn't closed yet, so I'm hanging with a coworker. And here it is, this woman is coming down the block with a couple of her friends, and these supposed to be grown-ups. These supposed to be grown-ups. Hear me? Older than me, grown-ups. And they out here moving like teens. Yes, shake your ass, do this. Yo, you bad, bitch. Like just shit like that. And it's like, come on, man. Y'all doing anything for clout. And some of y'all doing it again for social media purposes. You're doing it for clout. But in the long run, you making yourself look bad. Because don't think at some point people won't recognize you. No doubt, James. It's number 8 year already. Appreciate you, my guy. And that's what I'm saying. And that's all you could see was these grown women who supposed to have at least enough common sense out here twerking, busting it open, doing everything under the book, and then encouraging it. Yes, shake your ass. Yes, show them that you working. Like it's like these are the type of things. And then you got kids coming up and down the block as well too. Because they with their family. And they even looking at this shit like, come on, where is the morality at? Where is it? Some of it you can blame on music videos, James, but I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of things that are tied in, not so much just with social media, even before social media became the powerhouse that it is today. You just had some people who was out there bugging out and tweaking. And then they spread that same shit throughout the communities. Oh, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But nowadays, like I said, almost every time I looked up, there was somebody recording or doing something. So who knows if it went to TikTok? Who knows if it went to Facebook? Who knows if it went to Instagram? Or any other platform that they feel like this is, well, I'm going to get that attention here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But then some of y'all cry about, oh, it ain't nothing but thirsty people out here. It ain't nothing but these type of people out here. No, those are the type of people you're attracting because you want to be young. You want to live your life, right? You want to live wild and free, but you're not realizing. If you got kids at home, who's to say they not catching this shit somewhere on social media? Come on now. Some of it is the music videos, because yes, we know. And this is something that's been a thing since I'm going to say the late 90s. I can't say the early 90s because the early 90s was still, they still was kind of like stuck between the gangster rap, the party rap, and whatever. But everything after that, I don't, like I said, you out here twerking. You out here trying to do splits. You out here doing shit that you're not a teen no more. You well in your late 30s, 40s. You supposed to have a certain rapport for yourself. You're supposed to have a certain maturity and certain dignity about yourself. Period. That's just like with some of these older niggas that's in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Still trying to be young. From that era where, look here, at a certain age, you were supposed to dress a certain age. Because that showed, and it also showed distinguished maturity. Like, prime example. I don't want to see a 50-year-old nigga in a fur coat. I'd rather see a 50-year-old man in a cardigan or some form of a dress suit, something like that. Same thing with some of these women. I don't want to see some of y'all women over 30, 40, 50 wearing these shits that for a fact ain't doing nothing but just enticing the wrong thing. Dress accordingly. Dress appropriately the way you're supposed to. Especially if you do have kids. Because again, guess what? You doing certain things and then you want to post it on social media. And that's the problem now. I said it earlier and I'm going to say it again. This is going to be the problem and the downfall for a lot of people. Because everything must be seen. Everything must be shown. Oh, I'm doing this because, just because, just because. But you don't care. You got kids at some point down the road that will see this. You know, come on there. You know, and that's what I'm saying. Anything to go viral. Nah, you right, James. You know, that's what I'm saying. In certain situations, it's like y'all doing anything just to be viral or just to be a sensation. Y'all want that 15 minutes of fame so badly, and when them 15 minutes is up, then what? What would you have accomplished? What would you have done? Not thinking about that. Some of y'all not even realizing, damn, my child might see this. I don't want my child to think less of me. I don't want my child to think that this is how I was moving throughout life. Too late. You already put that out there. You know, and there's certain things, even for some of us fellas, we're going to have to start checking. You know, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to start checking certain things. You know, in the long run, you know, you have to realize, you know, the things you do, the things that you post up on any of these sites, some of that shit will still be up. Even if you decide to delete something, who's to say somebody didn't already record or screenshot something? Yo, I seen your mom's doing this. And this is how some of these kids right now, even throughout the course of history, this is why some of these kids was having the issues they was having as far as being bullied and picked on. Because some of y'all don't give two shits. You out here showing yourself like a whole stripper out here. And what you think gonna happen when these kids go to school or when these kids is out in the neighborhood? Yo, I seen your mom's out here. I seen her doing this. I seen her out there doing this. Same thing with the fathers to a degree. Your father was drunk out here acting a fool. Your father was this. Your father was that. You know, you gotta think about that. These are things you have to be wary of, especially when you have children. Because who's to say, prime example, your child gets bullied, your child gets picked on, and now your child decides they can't take it no more. And your child decides to take it a step further and do something that they can't come back from. Yeah, and that's the thing. Some of y'all are so concerned about money and fame and all this notoriety, but guess what? Most of these people that you doing that shit for, they only gonna notice you for one thing. Oh, that's the lady that was busting it open on the truck. That was the lady that was doing this. Oh, yo, that was the nigga that was doing this. That was the dude that was doing this. And I'm saying, because again, it's not just some of these women out here wilding for respect. That's some of these men too, and they being a part of it. So again, if you're not going to be wise and reasonable and not try to put a halt to certain things, shoot, that future generation, that Generation Z, going to be fried, man. They kind of already fried because some of them can't even read past a certain level. And you supposed to be the teacher. You supposed to be the one that's showing them better. But instead, you trying to be just as young as them. That's why I said, like, that night in particular, I felt very upset because it's like these women well past their 30s and 40s. One of them looked like they was in their 50s. Even you should have had enough common sense to say, nah, this ain't it, sis. Like, nah. You know, that's what I'm saying. Some people act like they scared to check somebody. If I'm cool with you like that and I see you doing something that could mess up whatever, I'm going to tell you right then and there. It ain't going to be no, oh, just let you be free and do whatever. No. Especially if it's going to look bad on you in the long run. Again, when you're long gone, these videos will still be up. When you long gone, guess what? People gonna recognize you for that and that only. Like, do y'all have anything else to offer to the world besides shaking your ass and just doing immature shit? And I'm saying that on both ends. Do any of you young men and women, or do any of you older men and women have anything else to offer to the world or offer to the social media space outside of shaking your ass or just doing fuckboy shit? I could wait. I got all day for this one. I could wait. Because I can tell some of y'all definitely don't have nothing to add. Like I said, You know, these platforms are supposed to be utilized for different things. But it seems like some of y'all only utilizing it just for that. I'm going to go viral. I'm going to make sure I get these views. I'm going to make sure I get these likes. I'm going to make sure I do something where I could get paid. Why you can't do something honest that's going to get you paid? Why you can't do something that's going to be conducive and definitely be more constructive for your future? You know, and again, when we see certain things, we need to start putting it out on display. Public shaming again. Because I can remember a time, even when certain things like that was going down, when certain men and women was doing certain things, we had people in the community that would tell you off the rip, yo, you tripping. Yo, I don't know why you think this is cool. That's not cool. Why are you moving like this for? You know, like we would get down to the nitty gritty. James, who did it? I hear the sirens. Who did it? But no, you know, you gotta think about that. It's unfair and it's uncool because again, you're gonna have those who are coming behind you at some point, and that's not a good look. You know, and even to some degree, even when they become adults, guess what? That shit you doing is gonna look bad on them, and they still might have people that are gonna sit here. Yeah, your mom's is out here doing this, or yeah, your father wasn't nothing but this, because look what they was doing. You know, like, come on now. At one point, social media was being used as a great tool, and nowadays, they just letting anybody come in and do anything. Anything just to get some form of notoriety or some form of payment. It's crazy. And again, it's supposed to be setting the example. What kind of example are you setting, and what kind of morals are you presenting when you out here doing these type of things and not caring? Because for literally 5, almost 10 minutes, that's all you kept hearing was them same women. Yes, work it, bust it open, show them what you got, do this, do that. You know, and nobody's sitting there saying, nah, this ain't a good look. You out here doing this, you still got people out here with their families, their young children out here on top of that, and they seeing you act like a child. They seeing you act like a teenager. You out here doing all the utmost shit. And then again, some of y'all will be the same ones looking for somebody at some point to try to settle down with them or try to whatever. Ain't nobody gonna take you serious at all. Nobody. And they hate to hear that when somebody presents them and tells them like, yo, you wrong. You moving wrong. This ain't the way you supposed to present yourself as no grown man or woman. Just like it's some of you grown men, you out here enticing the bullshit with the children. You out here being a part of the violence. You out here recording the violence instead of stopping it. I'm going to get to that too. Because that's another thing. Like I said, there's a lot of situations where social media is just being used for all the wrong shit. Sad, man. Low vibrationals all around the board. Because again, anytime you could think oh, well, this is what I'm going to do, so what? I don't care, this is what I'm going to do, so what? You showing that you don't care about yourself nor your kids' well-being. My bad. James, who did it again? Come on, man. I'm not trying to hear no more of these sirens while I'm in here, man. You know, but it's sad. Sad all around the board. And when somebody speaks from a real spot, in a real place of just principles and morality, y'all don't want to hear that shit. Y'all don't want to accept it. But you're gonna have to accept these truths because some of the things you do, it won't just land on you. It's gonna land on your offspring. And then what? Like I said, you got some kids right now who are going through it. They in schools where, kids that either live within their community or neighbor in their communities, they seeing certain things. And I'm gonna speak about that on another day too. How some of these kids are not supposed to be on social media the way they are, but they making pages, they being in the chats, they being in adult situations they ain't supposed to be in. That shit is becoming bonkers. Oh, I'm gonna say this too to my content creators out there that's using vertical. Before you start your live streams, in order to avoid kids or young ones coming into your chats, when it says the audience, when it says who select the audience, please put do not, you know, don't just sit there and ignore that. My fault. Don't sit there and ignore that. Where it says audience at, you put if it's made for kids or not. If you know you probably gonna be doing some cursing, you might talk about some real adult things, please put that not made for children. So these kids won't show up in your live streams, they won't show up in your news feeds, all that other stuff. Because I know with vertical now you're showing up in the short feeds, but if you're having conversations that they don't need to hear, please put that in there. When you are setting up your vertical where it says the audience, no, not made for kids. They looking for that thieving ass baby Cleophas. You lucky because baby Cleophas can't come out right now. Don't talk crap. Don't talk crap serious. You were supposed to be in charge of baby Cleophas. How he end up getting out the crib? See what I'm talking about? James, you ain't no help. You supposed to make sure all the young babies don't come out here doing nothing. I'm paying y'all to babysit. Come on, son. I'm paying for y'all to babysit. Y'all ain't even helping. Come on now, man. That ain't right. That is not right. It ain't right at all. Nah, but you gotta really, come to some form of realization and look at that shit for real. There are some things that if you're gonna use social media for, okay, cool. See, like prime example, there are some who are using this for, they want to show off and showcase their dancing skills and all that shit. I'm all for that. But when you showcasing nothing but twerking and just doing shit that you shouldn't be doing, nah, that's a problem. Because you don't know who watching. And again, you got some young ones who got social media pages that shouldn't have. I honestly feel I'm going to say this. If you not 18 and over, you shouldn't have a social media page at all. Why do you need one for? And then especially on some of these platforms where you can end up being into an adult conversation that you shouldn't be a part of. Somebody let me know when I said something wrong and I'll shut up. But this is something that need to be looked at. And again, for those that are using vertical, I know some are doing it right, but there are some who probably not noticing or probably are wondering how these young ones are getting into their chats and into their ciphers. That's because you got to make sure when you setting it up and it says select audience, you let it be known if this is for kids or not. Prime example, if the content is for kids, like if I was doing something right now and the content was mostly geared towards the kids, I would put yes, this is for kids, and then I would have to watch what I say and what I do on it. But if you have an adult talks, you got to put it on no, not for kids. Because again, these ones will end up showing up in your chats. I done been in a couple chats recently, and it's the same thing. You wondering, what the hell, is this a child or is this an adult asking this question? And then when you look and realize it's children, it's like, oh nah, why are they even in here? That's crazy, man. It really is. That's why I said you just gotta be mindful and careful in what you're doing, especially on here. And if you're gonna have these talks and conversations, just make sure that You know, you have everything properly set, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just something to really look at for real, you know. Because in the long run, who wants to keep going through all of that? Who wants to keep asking how old are you and how did you get here, etc., etc.? No. You just set that thing right like you're supposed to, and you won't have that problem. Prime example, you notice if I'm doing anything on here or anything on StreamYard, at the end of the day, it's going to be no, not made for kids. Because the kids shouldn't hear cursing, the kids shouldn't hear certain things overall. And these conversations, they are too young to be around or have anyway. Anytime you could think to say is an 8-year-old in your chat, that's a problem. But I want to give that fair warning to anybody, again, who's using vertical. When it comes to setting up your streams, even if you're about to just start a live right away, make sure that the audience is set properly. If you want it to be geared towards the kids, then leave it as it is. But if you know these are conversations that they shouldn't be around or shouldn't be a part of, then put it as no, not made for kids. And then you move forward from there. So again, this way you don't have that issue. You see me, the last few times I use vertical, you ain't getting out one damn kid coming here. Why? Because again, conversations are not always made for kids. They might be about the youth, but it ain't for the youth. And when it is for the youth, guess what? You'll know, because it won't be too much cursing. It'll barely be any cursing. You know, you just gonna get a straight dialogue, straight all across the board. You know, and that's something that we really got to start being more careful on too. Us as, you know, content creators, we just got to be careful on how we presenting the message and who's going to be a part of that message. Now, when there is certain things that's, you know, good for the kids to hear, then you leave it on the way you're supposed to leave it on. Yeah, James, because I've seen that too. And then when you notice, when you put it on not made for kids, you don't get that problem. But you got to think about it. Your live streams, if you're using vertical, are now coming through the short streams. So a prime example, I could be scrolling through some short videos now, might come across some lives, you know? And I'm an adult. You got to think about it. They got YouTube kids. So these kids that's on the other section of YouTube are supposed to be watching or coming across content that's for them. But sometimes they will come across adult content, which they should, because you don't know what could be going on. And prime example, I was going through a short feed one day, just scrolling through some shorts. When I get to what I thought was a short, it was a live stream. And guess what I seen? They must have been strippers or whatever, because they was, that's what I'm saying. Some of y'all just don't care what you presenting out here, but you should have that much of a moral compass to say, nah, this ain't right. And if I'm gonna do this, there should be no children around at all. There shouldn't be no children watching what you're doing. Even if you think that's how you gonna live your life and how you gonna do what you do, there's certain things that they shouldn't be, you know, they shouldn't be shown, because in the long run, it'll bite you back. It will bite you back in the long run. So again, for those who are using vertical, make sure you set that shit right, so you don't have situations where there's kids in your chat. But some of y'all should be aware anyway, because once there's certain things said or done that you know a child would say or do, it's time to get them up out of there. You know, yes, there are some talks that you're going to have with these young ones, but when the time is right to have them, that's when you have them. Give me 1 second, y'all. I was in one chat and the child said I'm 8. I slammed him out of there. In another chat, I was curious by the way he was typing. I looked him up and he's obvious. Yeah, because again, you got some of these kids who are on here create. That's why I said when it comes to some of these platforms, damn near all these platforms, there should be no kids having social media pages. They shouldn't be able to create one. And some of you parents are allowing these kids to do that. We couldn't do certain things when we was coming up. Because it got looked, not so much as looked down on. It was more on the lines of, what do you need this for? Nah, you can't do this. Not old enough yet. Where's that morality at again? You know what I'm saying? There's some things that, again, should never be overlooked or underlooked. This is something that shouldn't be underlooked because, again, this right here can affect some of you content creators by constantly having these live streams on here, but then you're not setting up the thing you're supposed to set up so you can keep these children, especially these young ones, out of the conversation. If the conversation ain't built for them, then they shouldn't be worried about anything else. Like I said, a child should remain in a child's place. And that means on all cylinders. When there's conversations that adults are having, they shouldn't be a part of it. And it's sad. So again, you know, for those that need to hear it, take heed to what I just said about the stream, well, about these live streams, especially here on Vertical. You don't want to have to keep sniping kids out or asking, how old are you? Nobody should have to worry about that. You know, and again, it's needed right now. And it's more prevalent now to do so. You know, again, you know, there's some things that adults should not have to worry about. And you content creators too, you shouldn't have to worry about it. So just do what you need to do, set it up the right way, and then you do what's necessary. Nothing more, nothing less. Again, it's about trying to set the boundaries and set the precedents. And that's what we're supposed to do, set the precedent the right way. You know, make sure that these young ones are not being influenced by all the wrong type of situations and talks and scenarios. And not saying that all of us are having, you know, crazy conversations, but there are some things that could be too sensitive. There are some things that they might not fully understand yet. So they shouldn't be a part of that conversation. You know, whether you believe it or not, it's the truth. You know, there are some things that we're supposed to keep under wraps. So hopefully some of my content creators did get this last part of the message because we need it. Talk your talk, but make sure you're talking around the right people. Make sure you're talking around the people who are age appropriate. Don't forget that part neither. You know, and again, for some of you parents, if you are going to allow your children to listen to certain things or be a part of certain things, you have to be there as well too. So make sure they getting the right type of info. Make sure they are getting the right type of learning and education. You know, don't have them in a position where they done learned something that they shouldn't be learning, and now you wondering how that happened. Again, you got to be more responsible and more careful in what you do. put that feature on that will decipher who's a child? Or would that just keep your channel from getting a strike? Both. To be honest, it is both. Because again, you don't want to have a whole bunch of children in your chat. You might have said something or did something, and then now if somebody come across it, now it's, oh, you over here doing this and you over here presenting this to the children. No, that's not what they're doing. But no child, again, should have no social media page. What's the point? What's the purpose? But I would say when you set up not made for children, you don't have to worry about these children coming into your live stream feeds, and you definitely don't have to worry about taking a possible strike neither, or taking any possible backlash because of. You know, that's why I say when I do my live streams, it don't matter if it's on here or if it's on StreamYard. When I set up what I set up, you see we don't get no children. You see we don't get that problem. Because I'm not crazy. There's going to be some situations I'm going to talk about. Kids don't need to be a part of that conversation. Because again, it's only going to set them in the wrong direction in some instances. Or in other instances, again, you don't know what the outcome could be. So you want to make sure you're on point when it comes to your streaming. But most people are going to try to avoid that type of situation anyway. So that's why I said I carefully make sure if I'm going to use this, because I did use this before it became vertical. When I first was doing my first couple of live streams, you know, I made sure that I was setting up that thing where it says audience. That's important to look at that. When it says audience, it's going to tell you, is this live stream made for kids or is it made for adults? Because if it's made for adults, all the thing you got to do is just put no, it's not for kids. And then you don't have to worry about no kids at all being in your streams or being around that scenario. You'll have nothing but adults coming into that, you know? But if you are going to do something and it's geared towards the young ones, then again, watch what you're saying, watch what you're presenting, and just do what you got to do. But yeah, just wanted to have this discussion today. And again, for some of y'all in your communities, again, start paying attention to who you need to pay attention to. If certain things they're doing just don't seem right and it seems weird, out of pocket, follow your gut instincts and make sure that it's not something that at some point could turn around and bite you in the ass. Because again, there's nothing good about any young man or woman being preyed upon by older men or women. It ain't a good look, and it'll never be a good look, and it'll never be accepted. And I wish some people would get that. I don't care how your upbringing was. Don't think because some of the shit you was around is supposed to be normal all around the board. So, you know. Oh, no, I know. But see, that's the thing, though. You know, because again, you might have a live stream. I know you're going serious, but I would say this, too. You got to think about it. If you do have a stream that's geared towards them, you know, then you leave it how it is. But when you're setting up the stream for vertical, it gives you the thing right there. When you're setting up the title and everything else and the thumbnail, you scroll down, it's going to say that. Select audience. That's literally like the third thing at the bottom. Select audience. So a lot of y'all content creators, especially the ones who feel like you don't want no kids being involved in your situation, I don't care what community you come from. You make sure you set that the right way. So this way there is no issues and there is no blowback and there is no, you know, backlash behind it. You already know how we do, James. Not going to hold y'all much longer. I just wanted to have this conversation. I'm going to reiterate. I'm going to definitely be back tomorrow for a good talk. It'll probably be earlier than tonight. Hold on. Truth, baby. But I'm gonna definitely, reiterate on this topic because again, you gotta think about it. As a matter of fact, I still got some time. You gotta think about this. It's sad that we have young, unimpressionable kids out there who the simplest manipulation could put them on the wrong path. But it's also sad when you got adults who are supposed to be adults in the mind still moving like children or thinking that's the best way to do anything or to gain any form of traction by try to manipulate and go after somebody that's well younger than you. And when you got people like that moving around in your community, they are predators in your community, and they gotta go. A predator of any sort has to leave the fuck about the community, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And if you notice that there's certain things happening, then that's when you contact the proper authorities. Or if not, you take shit into your own hands. We need to get back to that. In some scenarios, we gonna have to take justice into our own hands because we already know when it comes to certain situations, them blue and whites ain't always gonna be rushing to the scene, or they not always gonna be quick to jump on certain things. It's no disrespect, but it's truth. And it's sad. And again, may that young girl rest in peace. May that young baby that didn't get a chance to see the world rest in peace. Condolences to the family again, because this is something that I know for a fact is probably paining them now. Again, this child was failed. And not so much as by the parents. They was failed by the system that was supposed to be responsible for them. We can't overlook that. And anytime you decide you're going to send your children to certain places so they could get themselves right or get their behavior right, you still have to make sure that they're safe all around the board. Because they can still be manipulated. They can still be preyed upon. This was a prime example of the system failure. Because again, how was this person able to have relations with this young girl? Who's to say if this young girl didn't bring him back to the group home, or if she didn't run away and go do whatever? That's why I said parents got to start being more available on both ends when it comes to your children. You can't be a half-assed parent. You got to be a full-time parent. And you got to make sure you are doing everything possible for your child's upbringing and making sure you're doing everything possible for your child to grow into a successful adult. Again, it's sad when, it's sad in some situations, because in some of these situations, like I said before, the parents have already failed the children because they're not setting certain things up the way they're supposed to set it up. But when a system fails a child, that's the worst type of failure right there. Something that we should really just take into consideration and not overlook again. Because sad as I sound right now, it's true. There are some scenarios that are happening just like that. Might not be the unaliving part of it, but you do have young ones out there who are being placed into adult positions that they shouldn't be placed into. No young woman should be worried about being a mother at a certain age. Just like no young man or young boy should be worried about being a father or possible father. And they still ain't fully lived their life or grow and develop the way they supposed to. And anybody that is getting caught out there, or anybody out there thinking that shit is smooth, is going to be a cakewalk, oh, I could get away with this, at some point, you will catch the ultimate karma and downfall. Just remember that part. Because you are going to have those people who just not for it. And they not going to accept it. And guess what? There's nothing you can say or do about it. You don't care how much you try to say, oh, this was something that was normal to me, this was something that was done. No, you're an adult now, which means you should have enough logic and common sense to know what you're doing is wrong. That's why I say, yeah, there are some things that people learn that they need to just unlearn because it follows them into adulthood. And then you try to make an excuse or you try to place it all on. No, you could blame everything around you, but in the long run, you're the one that did the action. So now you have to place that blame on yourself. Something to really think about for the day. You have scenarios like that that are happening. Again, young men and women being preyed on by adults that should have enough common sense to know it's not right. Again, start paying attention to what's going on with the young ones around you. So it don't be another scenario like how we just had. No supervision. Most of these sitters that's supposed to be watching over them are not qualified. They are not state approved. They are employed by an agency that provides individuals to sit. No, that's the whole fact. But again, you want to make sure that your children are being placed in certain scenarios where there are licensed and reputable adults making sure that all of this is not being done for nothing. And again, I feel for those parents because, like I said, I didn't fully get the details, but they probably sent her there for whatever reason. And who's to say that she wouldn't have got a chance to get back to her parents? Who's to say that, her life might have been a little better? It might have gotten a little better. But again, start paying attention and start watching what you do around these young ones, what you present to these young ones. And again, make sure that they're good all around the board. Because even if you're doing your best, you're going to have those who are creeping and lurking to do their worst. And it's time for y'all to stop trying to pass the buck along. It's time for y'all to stop being half-ass parents. And again, if it don't apply, let it fly. But if it do apply, this should be a strong message. Again, this is that ether that makes your soul burn slow. Whenever I do have these conversations, I'm speaking straight from the spirit. So you're going to feel it. And hopefully you get it. And if I reached at least one person, I'm happy about that. If I reached 100 people, I'm happy about that. Because at least I know the words are being listened to. The words are being taken into real consideration. No child, again, deserves to be unalive well before their time. And when they are, or when it does happen, whether it's done by their peers or it's done by adults, y'all deserve the harshest punishments. Because again, it's easy to take a life. It ain't easy to bring one back. Now we got another situation again of what ifs. Shouldn't be living like that. But for those that might just be tuning in, for those who might have came in late, y'all already know. I'm not going to hold y'all. I definitely just wanted to speak to the people today. And I do got a serious question to ask. For those parents who are planning on doing certain things along those lines, you're sending your kids away for good reasons. Are you checking and making sure that the places you're sending them to are reputable? Are you making sure that they're going to be in a safe comfort regardless to what? Are you going to make sure that they are not victims of circumstance? And if you feel that some of these places aren't reputable or it's just not whatever, don't put them in there. At some point, again, it's about your child's safety more than anything. Your child is not going to be safe when you have people out here like that lurking around. When does the communities come back together? When does the village say enough is enough? When do we start bringing back the public shaming? When do we start getting the justice that we supposed to get? These are questions that should be asked. And these are questions that shouldn't be overlooked nor underlooked. Again, the community needs to start having more unity. The village needs to start being more assertive when it comes to the protection of those coming behind us. Because when we're long gone, we're supposed to be passing that torch along to them so they could keep certain things under wraps. I might have another discussion, different topic, but question that should be asked. And I might just ask this question now. What are some of you parents building up for? There's some of y'all who are trying to play a part and trying to make the world seem like you got it like that. You're trying to make the world seem like, you set up for all the right things, right? But what are you exactly setting them up for? What are you supposed to be establishing for the young ones behind you? I'm going to definitely have that conversation. It could be tomorrow. Sometimes the state of placing them there, they were taken from the parents for very... I understand that part, serious. You're not wrong about that. I understand that part. But there are some parents who are just sending their kids off. And if you go and send your kids off because you want them to learn something, you still need to make sure that they're safe. But if you would keep certain things under wraps as parents, those are the type of things you wouldn't have to worry about. Again, making sure your kids got roof over their head, proper clothes, proper food, making sure they're getting a proper education. These are things that are important, and these are things that are going to build characteristics and build a successful child when it's all said and done. When you're doing the bare minimum or doing nothing at all, you can't expect certain things. And you can't expect to keep your children under that roof when it's obvious that child is being misused or abused. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. And like I said, question is, for the next live stream, what are you building for your future? What are you trying to build for the future generations or your family tree? Something that I feel need to be asked. Because some of y'all are definitely fronting out here. But when you have children, you are supposed to set them up for something great. And it starts from you. It starts with you. What do you plan on doing? How do you plan on doing it? And how much effort are you really going to take to making sure it goes through? I ain't messing with you, James. I'm scrolling up now. But these are conversations that we need to have. It's conversations that some people feel uncomfortable having. or scared to have. I ain't scared to have them. Because at some point, we need to keep having these conversations in order to build back what we have lost, to build back what we destroyed to a degree. It's about that time, you know. Some parents are. Some parents have exhausted all their resources, and the only place is a placement home temporarily. Some extensively, it depends on the circumstances. I get all of that. That is the truth. But again, if you're going to decide to be, if you're going to bring life into the world, you got to be responsible for that life. You have to. You can't bring children into the world and decide to still be irresponsible. Because in the long run, it's going to bite you in the ass. It's the truth. No, but you're right, serious. I mean, again, some of them, they do. They burn their bridges and resources, and now they looking for help. Or they have to do the unthinkable. But it's sad. If you're not going to be responsible for life, don't bring no life into the world, period. Like I said, not everybody deserves to be a parent. Because these are the type of situations you're going to get. But, like I said, I'll definitely reiterate on this conversation. And I'll be back tomorrow, definitely. I'm trying to debate if I'm going to do the stream, y'all, or if I'm going to do this again. But if I do the stream, y'all, the link will be pinned. If I decide to do this again, it's all good. Still going to have this great conversation regardless. Again, don't be irresponsible when it's time to be responsible. Can't be a half-ass parent. You either got to be fully in it to win it or not. And if you choose not to be, don't expect all the right things to happen, or don't expect all the right type of scenarios to fall in place for you. You'll see that bridge right there will be a non-existent bridge. But, again, appreciate everybody that tuned in for the conversation. Not going to hold y'all any longer. Time for me to start getting up out of here. But, again, appreciate everybody that's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build. And yes, we still got more great conversations, and we're still going to bring this to the forefront regardless. In the long run, we got to have these talks. Regardless of how uncomfortable, we must have these talks in order for certain things to transpire the way we need it to transpire. We want better in our communities, in our villages. We got to start bringing back the things that we're missing, the things that we lost. But, again, hopefully somebody did get something out this message. And I appreciate those who shared your boy out. Appreciate those that's still rocking out. And yeah, again, we definitely going to have this convo tomorrow. Hopefully y'all enjoy the rest of y'all afternoons on the west, evenings in the central and in the east. And it's already Thursday. All you future babies out there. I still need my lottery numbers for tomorrow today, baby. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But yeah, let me get myself up out of here. Again, appreciate everybody that rocked out. And I'll see y'all in these streets tomorrow. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay game. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. And for everybody that was in attendance tonight, y'all already know that love is love, and it'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All I can do is give you real. And that's all I'm going to do is give you real topics and real builds. And I'll definitely see y'all later on in these streets. I see some of y'all moving around these streets. Don't laugh, serious. We gotta get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who do we appreciate? But yeah, definitely was a great convo, and I'll see y'all later on. But y'all stay safe, keep that third eye open, and to the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.